Hello friends, today I'm going to show you a quick video of a buffer overflow in the ARM architecture based router. In this case, this is basically a Dlink router that's available online. This is the new router that seems to be a little bit expensive. It's a Dlink AC3200 Ultra Wi-Fi router, and you can see that it's available at $359 on Amazon. It just wanted to indicate one thing, that just because something is available at a very high price doesn't necessarily mean that it's extremely secured. In this case, we have downloaded the firmware. It seems like they say the security firmware patch 1.06b04, which was released by Dlink on 17 April, it seems. If we look at, so this is the firmware that has been extracted using binwalk, I'm basically performing this hack using an emulator. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna spend $359 to actually buy this device. It's kind of expensive and not probably worth having it in that aspect if it's not that secured. So we can look at it that pretty much it's similar. One thing that I wanted to note over here is that this is the authentication sub procedure in the binary. There's a binary called CGI-bin.idb, which is CGI-bin is the name of the binary, and IDB is obviously the extension from IDFL. In this case, there's a specific routine which I have renamed as authentication because it deals with authentication. One thing that can be noted over here is that it receives a get environment variable on this line, and then if we follow this, it seems like it does a string copy directly using that specific value into the destination and so. So if we look at it, R2 is basically obtained by subtracting R11 with a certain variable value, which is going to be 1856. However, what we can note is that R11 over here is actually the stack pointer value, and so this is actually leading to a buffer overflow on the stack. Now, ARM-based routers are obviously have ASLR enabled on it, so technically this attack would only work if there was some way of obtaining the randomized address. But one thing that happens good with these routers is that the web server opens up this as a separate process every time an HTTP request is made. And as a result of that, the web server never crashes, and so it's possible for an attacker to send as many requests as he wants until he ends up achieving the payload to be executed. So in this case, what I'm going to do is basically execute a telnet D option and basically open up a telnet port on that. I have used an emulator in this case, so what I want to show you is this is that specific emulator that has the same file system loaded, and if we look at it, it seems like has been http-http.com, so this indicates that the router is running. What I'm going to do is just to give you a quick glimpse. I'm just going to try to navigate, and it seems that this page is not found, which indicates that this specific address is the router present. So in this case, I'm in it. What I'm going to do is basically loop over my script. I'm looping it over between 1 to 1,000 times, but technically an attacker can go as long as he wants. Obviously, the randomization is about 24 bits, so technically the worst case scenario would be 2 raised to 24 times repetition, which technically never is required in such cases. So just to show you, this is basically the same exploit in Python that has been created. This is zero-day exploit at this point of time, as far as I'm aware of it. And after 408 days in the URL, it leads to actually into a buffer overflow, which allows me to open up a telnet D on 9092. As we can see right now using ps command, that no such process is opened up at this point of time. let's start going over our Python script and see if that results in opening up the specific telnet port on that specific emulated router. So we have sent almost 50-60 requests. I'm going to keep on checking in between to see if that specific telnet D has been opened up. So not yet. Almost sent 200 requests now that we can see. Still not. Let it run till 1000 most likely. Most of the times I've seen that this to be working between 500 and 600 requests, which seems like a lot, but technically is not a lot of requests for a high-end processor or a coprocessor, or in this case basically a router that handles these kind of requests. So almost coming to the end of 1000. And we can see now that almost within 1000 requests it ended up opening up the telnet D port. So even though the router has ASLR enabled, it doesn't necessarily mean that it acts as a deterrent for that aspect. The ASLR is a good way of randomization to prevent buffer overflows and memory corruption vulnerabilities, but it doesn't necessarily prevent against buffer overflow in case where I have an infinite number of times to do this specific exploit. What I'm going to do is try one more time. This time we'll try to open it up on another port and see if it works, although this might not work at this point of time because that specific address might have already passed out. But just to see if it works again, we are going to keep it at 2000 and let this thing go. Also, in certain cases, telnet D cannot be opened at twice on two different ports, especially in Dlink routers. That is some weird aspect that I have observed in the past. So that might not work, but we'll still allow it to give it a shot. In the meantime, a lot of the viewers had asked me how I end up learning about these things, and I think one thing that I have used recently is a book that talks about these aspects of learning of how to do embedded hacking. It's Embedded Device Security Upon the Device by author Samuel Huntley. And it seems like this author has covered up pretty much most of the things that are required for someone to do these kind of exploitations on an embedded device in terms of how you can extract the firmware and then do reverse engineering on that. So I would suggest to the viewers who are looking at this video to actually buy the book and learn these techniques. Let's take a look if the attack seems to have worked again. And it does seem like it did work. So we can see that another telnet port has been 9094 and about 1300 requests. So since we were talking, it might have opened up a little bit earlier, but around 1000 requests are required in general is what have been observed in the emulated environment. But that would mean that the same case would be possible on a non-emulated environment as well. In that case, anyways, thanks again, guys. Appreciate your comments and feedback. This is how you will exploit basically an ASLR-based buffer overflow in an ARM operating system.